everyone. My name is Ali Shivji. I'm one of the principals at Optima Living, and I'm here in Calgary, the Edward. I'm interviewing two incredible people, Fred and Shirley. Now, just to be clear, Fred and Shirley are not, they're not partners in any sort of way. They're both co-residents that live in this building, and we're going to be talking about some really cool and fun topics. But more importantly, we're going to be touching on this topic that we've been thinking about a lot at Optima, around this idea of like, how do you enhance your quality of life? And if you're truly trying to live your best life, and if our residents are living their best lives, well, what is it about that that allows them to live those best lives? And how do we help kind of uncover, discover, or have those discussions? And so today our topic is going to be around the topic of relationships, and where and how relationships provide a predominant aspect of this. How do they improve your quality of life? So with that, let me spend 2 minutes, if I may, on introducing these incredible people. Now, I got to meet Mr. Fred Clarke. What struck me the most, Fred, and if I were to introduce you to others, I would say that you're someone who not only believes and understands the importance of relationships, but you've also seen the incredible value of those relationships and what they're able to produce, be it in the political work that you did, in the helicopter work you did, or in the way that you care incredibly for your family, your wife, and others, and all of those things come down to your strength and beauty of relationships.
Sure, well, thank you very much.
And that you know how to at least identify a mean kind of wonton soup, because it was very good, and
Yes,
I
it was very
appreciate
good.
the suggestion.
It's all very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Shirley, there are many ways that I can introduce you, but I feel like the best way to introduce you, there probably is no louder source of laughter and happiness than Shirley and her family on a Friday afternoon at the, what do we call these, happy hours?
Mixology.
The mixologies,
Yes.
yeah.
My granddaughter and her husband and their baby arrive about 4:30 or 5, and we have a wonderful visit. And I usually take my great-grandson around to meet all the other ladies because they're all interested in being a grandma. One of the ladies asked me if that little guy knew how many grandmothers he had. And I said, well, not yet, but he will know pretty soon.
I have to tell you both a story. So speaking about your great-grandson, 7 years ago, next month, at Optima, we bought our first site in Alberta. And a week afterwards, my daughter Zara was born. And for many reasons, my wife, who is the source of all brilliant ideas in my life, said to me, I think that we should move in to this residence. And I said, okay. And so we did. And so our little Zara, from basically her first week to the first 6 months of her life, spent living in our retirement community in Claresholm, Alberta, with 40 grandparents who used her stroller as their walker, who was the reason that my wife, to this day, says that she didn't get any sort of postpartum depression because she had all these people looking after her. And it started for me personally a journey around this idea of understanding the beauty of both relationships as well as kind of intergenerational engagement. So coming here today, my youngest daughter, who's 4.5, said, Daddy, I want you to bring me with you in some capacity to a webinar. So she sent her bunny with me. And she said, Dad, can you please take my bunny, and I want my bunny to be with you while you do this webinar. So I was like, okay, so the bunny is here because of Anya, and Anya's desire to be part of webinars, and so she's going to be here in that capacity. But it starts this conversation about relationships and how important they are to quality of life. And so maybe I'll just start by asking each of you, when you think about this idea of where and how the relationships that you have allowed you to have the quality of life you have today, what does that mean to you, Shirley? I'll start with you. Like, what?
Well, it means a lot. And it was actually my family that said, Mom, you're getting on in years, and I came from Red Deer, where I lived a number of years, but I had no family there. I had many friends, but I was really too far away from my family. So Calgary was actually the place that I had to be. I think I have 10 or 11 family members here, and I have never regretted a moment of it. So they sort of talked me into this, and then we started hunting for a place to be.
Yes.
And this was the place that we chose, and I've never looked back.
Fred, tell me, when you think a little about this idea of relationships and how they apply to your life today, or what it means to you, and particularly here at the Edward, how would you?
Well, I'm from many years of relationships. It was part of my job. Part of my corporate life was relationships and sales and marketing. And from a family standpoint, we were very close. My wife and I and the two children married very young, both mature, which helped, but had our kids very young, and we grew up as a nuclear, very, very happy, very loving family. And then one by one, that started getting ripped away. Our son passed away at 57 with cancer, and then my wife is in Alzheimer's down in another facility here in town. And relationships at that point in time didn't seem to matter to me, except that after being alone in a 3,500 square foot home, 3 floors with a dog, I didn't speak Poodle and my dog didn't speak English. So actually it was my daughter that we parry and thrust, and we try to outdo each other wittingly. But she came to me one night after supper. I had them over, and she said, "Dad, you've got to get out of here." And I said, "Well, why is that?" She said, "Well, you're losing your edge." And she says, "We've been zinging you all day, Paul and I, and they're just going over your head. You no retort. You got to get out of here." So that's why I sat down, with my daughter and discussed the fact that I needed somebody else in my life, but not somebody in my life. I just need people to talk to and to have dinner with and chitty chat and coerce, and we kibitz back and forth here. But I looked at a number of places and was on the waiting list of one, actually, my wife and I. But when push came to shove and I looked at a few places, but I found when I came in here, there weren't many here. There was just, Shan and myself and a couple of others. And felt very comfortable here, very comfortable with the staff, and have developed, now I've been here coming on 2 years, and I've seen the residents increase in number, and find it very engaging. And everybody's their own quarterback. Some people are easy to approach, others are less easy to approach, but it's all worth a try.
Shirley, do you feel like it's, and I'll contrast outside the Edwards, so before you got here and then now that you're here, is it difficult to form relationships later in life?
Oh, absolutely not. I think it's easier.
Okay, tell me about that.
I find that I met 21 people the first day I came here. Of course, I just met them, and my first thought was, how in the world am I ever going to remember the names of all these people?
Yeah.
But as you sit with people at the meal table and so on, you become acquainted with as many as you want to. I sat with different people, or tried to, each time I came into lunch and dinner. And I don't think a week went by that I knew people's names. We had lovely visits, and I just felt, well, this is home.
Yeah.
It was that great.
Fred, what makes this place home for you? What does home mean to you, and how does
Well, first and foremost is comfort. And if you're not comfortable, you can't feel at home. But I found that very early in moving in here, I was able to communicate with people and staff. The staff is marvelous here. One thing that's good about here, you can be as lone as you want to or as involved as you want to. And I'm sure Shirley will agree that there's no pressure to participate. And if in fact someone has a tendency to not show up, they're noticed, their absence is noticed within a day or so.
Yes.
Where's Steve, or where's Fred, or where's Shirley? And then of course people reach out to you and find out, is there can I help? Is there something wrong? No, I'm just fine, But there's that communal fraternity, if you will.
Well, it's a family in its
Absolutely.
own way, right?
Absolutely.
And it's a community,
Yeah.
really.
And of course, what can you say about the ambiance here? I mean, I've stayed all over the world, and I've been in some 5-star hotels that the rotunda doesn't compare to this, you know what I mean? But it's the place to be. As I facetiously used to say to the people down at Section 23, is that I looked at the rest and I chose the best, because this has everything going for it.
What would you say to yourself, or people that are at home right now in that position, they've been there too long, what would you say to them about the quality of relationships and quality of life that they should be aware of?
Well, the hard line or the lovable line?
You can pick both. You can pick both.
I'd say get with it and get over it. Get out, get into the world. You can't sit here and fester and worry about things that you have no control over.
Shirley, what about you? I mean, what would you say to yourself if you had stayed longer, or even when you were in that hesitant phase?
I was ready to move. I'd planned it sort of for 3 years, and then a little push from the family made it come to fruition. But I know a lot of people that are very lonely, as I was in the evenings and the weekends. That was the very worst. And you want to see more of the ones you love, of course. And I was ready. I didn't take any coaxing, but I do know people that I think would be much, much happier if they came to a place like this or a similar place.
And I find sometimes you need to be around people. Sometimes we don't think about that part.
That's right. That's right.
But you find yourself longing for that phone call or
Yeah.
that conversation, and yet
Yeah.
you don't need
Yeah,
to.
exactly.
Have your relationships with your families changed since you've come here?
I think in my case, relationships have definitely changed because we see more of each other, we're more involved in each other's life, and they realize that I'm not 30 or 40 years old anymore, and so some of my needs are met by them being close and being around and seeing how much I can do and how much I can't do anymore.
And I must contrast this. When my last memory of my grandmother was a horrible one. She was in a very bad care facility. I'd call that a facility. And my last memory of her was one that wasn't something that I was excited about, but it was more about the fact that I dreaded going to see her. I wasn't excited about going to see her there, but it seems very different here.
Yes.
People are excited to come here and to engage with you, and that is an interesting dynamic, for sure. Fred, when you think a little bit about your family and the relationship with your family, has it changed since you've come here, and in what way?
Well, it's pretty hard to improve on the relationship we've had, but I would say that it's more loving. And my daughter sees me in a different light now, and she feels quite proud of herself that she got me out of the house and got me into here, because she was initial, in me coming in here, because she went everywhere with me. And she put this place under a microscope. But she's happy that I'm here. Our relationship has deepened. I think that's probably the best word, deepened. And where it was a lot of fun before, it's now more respectful. And I'm no spring chicken, but she's catching up to me, you see. So, I mean, there's just no words. No words can explain the shape that I would be in if I was still home alone. it would just be, it would be terrible. And very, very bad for my health and very bad for my mental well-being.
Yeah. And none of those are words that I would use to describe you today, which is exciting.
I think mental well-being is the key word.
Yeah.
Because you sit by yourself and there's nothing to give you any inspiration to do anything except maybe sit in front of the TV but here we have great exercise classes. We have people that encourage you to take part in anything and everything that's going on. And I think that's extremely important when you come into a place like this, that you're not just sitting by yourself, but you're almost forced to be around people. And I've acquired all the friends here that I hobnob with, and that are lots of fun, and there's more people coming all the time, which makes it exciting as well.
Yeah, it's you know, it's funny. We started this conversation about the quality of relationships, but we talked about love, laughter, making new memories, loneliness and isolation. We talked about making and finding new friends and the power of relationships and what would happen if we didn't do some of these things. We talked about kind of that new lease on life. We talked about more memory. We talked about families, right? And there is something about all of those parts creating and really having the essence of a quality of life worth living.
And of course, it's always better to communicate than it is to vegetate.
Yes.
And at home, if you're sitting at home and you know who Victor Newman is, it's time to make a move.
Well, listen, both, I want to thank you both for the conversation and engagement. And I hope this was as fun as it was for me, because it's great hearing stories.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of OLTV. If you liked what you saw and you want to watch more, like this video and subscribe to the Optima Living channel right here on YouTube.